people of America. It's not the elected officials. It's one person that's caused this issue, and that was President Trump. And, you know, we have to retaliate.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford goes back on American network television to talk about energy and Canada's retaliatory tariffs as the trade war between Canada and the U.S. continues today. Good afternoon. People on both sides of the border are now dealing with economic uncertainty and anxiety about the days ahead.
Premier Doug Ford standing firm on his threat to cut off energy if tariffs remain in effect. CTV News Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris is live at Queen's Park with the very latest in the situation. Siobhan.
Well, we are just outside the Premier's office where his cabinet is meeting. This is the first time the cabinet has been assembled since last week's election. They've been meeting for the better part of an hour now. Clearly a lot to talk about. We did catch up with the Premier right before the meeting and asked him about a phone call he had yesterday from the U.S. Commerce Secretary, where Premier Ford was asked to back off his retaliatory threats.
We had a good conversation. Let's stay tuned till after the Prime Minister meets with Trump on the phone.
Now, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick has signaled that President Trump is open to some kind of middle ground. It might mean some categories of the economy or regions get exemption from tariffs, though he insists that tariffs aren't going away. Trump and the Prime Minister were scheduled to speak over the phone at some point this morning, and the President is expected to speak publicly about tariffs this afternoon. Now, here at Queen's Park, opposition party leaders have been calling for unity and collaboration.
I'm asking Premier Ford to strike an all-party task force focused on breaking down interprovincial trade barriers. By working together, we can bring stakeholders and industry along and work together with party leaders in other provinces. We can't waste a single moment to further delays or dithering.
Doug Ford has signaled that he does want to break down some of those trade barriers. It's something he talked about during the election campaign. We may hear a little bit more about that today, or what is next for Ontario. A lot is really fluid as we wait to get updates from Parliament Hill and the White House. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. The tariffs have jolted communities across the country. Border towns like Windsor, which is also Canada's automotive capital, will feel the effects most acutely.
Billions worth of goods cross over the border every day. CTV's Heather Wright is in Windsor with more.
Well, traffic continues to move steadily along the Ambassador Bridge. Of course, that is the link that connects Windsor, Ontario to Detroit, Michigan, where so many goods flow back and forth over the course of the day. This is day 2, of course, of the tariffs that were imposed by U.S. President Donald Trump, 25% tariffs. And there is great anxiety here in Windsor, in this community that is so dependent on the auto industry. We were speaking with workers at the Stellantis plant that, of course, make Chrysler vehicles, and also people who work in the spin-off industry, who said layoffs are inevitable should these tariffs continue into several days or perhaps just over a week. And so there is this concern about what comes next, especially for the auto industry. Tens of thousands of jobs here in Windsor are at risk, with Ontario Premier Doug Ford saying the other day that perhaps the auto industry could shut down in a little over a week should these tariffs continue. Now, there are plans in the works to challenge these tariffs in U.S. court. That is happening south of the border. And Canadian industry groups are also looking at whether they can get standing in U.S. court to challenge these tariffs. But again, that is an uphill battle. But the feeling here on the ground is that they don't have weeks in order to prepare for what comes next. There are task force that have been set up by the city that continue to lobby their counterparts south of the border. So for now, it's in many ways business as usual. People continue to go to work, continue to make cars and auto parts that will cross the border here multiple times along the manufacturing process. But what their future looks like as these tariffs drag on for the next days or weeks, that really remains to be seen. And that adds to that cloud of uncertainty here along border communities like Windsor, Ontario. Back to you.
All right, that's CTV's Heather Wright. Still ahead, U.S. President Donald Trump made his first speech to Congress since taking office January 20th, just hours after starting a trade war with Canada and Mexico. Details coming up a little later in the newscast.
But first, a massive fire has left a path of destruction in the city's Yorkville neighborhood.
The blaze, now under control, tore through multiple townhomes. CTV's Raheem Ladani is live at the scene with the latest. Raheem.
Nathan and Michelle, good afternoon. We have graciously been given some incredible access from the fire chief, and so I want our viewers to see just how significant the damage from this fire is. I'm going to step out of frame. Firefighters are still working to reach certain areas of the interior at this hour. They're working to put out hot spots which are still burning. However, this 3-alarm fire is under control. Take a look at how vast this damage is. There were 6 townhomes under construction, now all reduced to rubble. We're here on Schollard Street in between Bay and Hazelton, and the townhomes here are century-old buildings. If you're familiar with the Yorkville area, you'll know that many of these homes have been converted to commercial buildings, and in this case, they were under construction, and so no one was living inside of them when the blaze erupted shortly after 4 this morning. There have been no reported injuries, although some nearby residents did need to be evacuated. I can tell you that 6 homes were fully engulfed, while several others, even across the street, have some damage to them. That's how powerful the heat was. At its peak, 23 firefighting apparatus were being used to contain it. That has now been scaled back to 17. I want you to hear from the acting deputy fire chief, as well as a woman who owns a nearby building just west of the fire. Take a listen.
The 6 buildings that were involved are destroyed. There's exposures on either side, 2 or 3 that will probably have to be gutted and renovated. The ones across the street received only damage to the facades, windows and siding and that sort of thing. Those can be repaired, but yeah, there's going to be a significant dollar value loss here.
And they beckoned us to come out quickly, so we did, but the overhead wires were already sparking, and the firemen and the police were already backing away and anxious to get residents all out.
Now, the Office of the Fire Marshal has been called in to investigate. That investigation is going to take until tomorrow at the earliest. There are a number of lane closures. Schollard Street in between Hazelton and Bay is completely closed. A large stretch of Hazelton just down the way here is also closed. Traffic is moving on Bay and Yorkville Avenue, but as you can imagine, it is quite slow. And so if you are making your way down here, certainly give yourself some extra time. Reporting live, I'm Raheem Ladani. I'll send it back to you both in studio.
All right, thank you, Raheem. Police are investigating a pair of shootings involving the tow truck industry.
A tow truck driver was shot at a gas station last night, while 2 others were wounded in a separate shooting at a tow yard. CTV's Allison Hurst is live with the details. This is troubling, Allison.
Staff at this tow yard declined to comment, but they did tell us that last night's incident here involved a customer and a driver, but that nobody inside the office at the time was injured. Now, the window to the door that leads into that office is shattered, with the backside covered in cardboard. There are also bullet holes in the entryway ceiling. It happened at about 10:30 last night near Weston Road in St. Clair at this tow yard. Police say a man in his 50s was shot and remains in life-threatening condition, and another man in his 20s was also shot and sustained non-life-threatening injuries. Then about an hour later, another tow truck driver was shot. Police say he's in his 20s and was shot at a gas station near Lawrence and Warden. He sustained non-life-threatening injuries, and according to police, the suspect in that one fled in a vehicle. Now, police say the suspect in the incidents that happened here at this tow yard last night fled in a dark-colored sedan. Meantime, police have not confirmed whether there is any link or connection between the 2 shootings last night. That is still under investigation. They are, though, appealing to the public for any dash cam footage or if any witnessed anything in the area of those 2 shootings. Reporting live, I'm Allison Hurst. Back to you in studio.
Thank you, Allison. It's been a gray and wet start to the day across the city. Residents had their umbrellas out this morning in the face of significant rainfall in some areas. Environment Canada has issued a special weather statement for the city of Toronto because there's more rain in the forecast, with impacts expected to be felt in other parts of the region as the day goes on. Here's a live shot of the city. A bit of a break in some areas from all that rain, and it's going to continue throughout the day. Then it's going to turn into flurries tomorrow. And all the precipitation is causing concern, especially around rivers and streams. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions and quite a bit of rainfall already, Lindsay.
Yeah, quite a bit, Nathan. In fact, probably the heaviest rain that we're expecting has now passed, so that's some good news. It is off to the east between Cobourg and Kingston. However, rounds of showers and drizzle expected through this afternoon, maybe a thunderstorm as well. And look at the backside of that low. Winter looks like it's going to make a little bit of a comeback tomorrow. In fact, Environment Canada issuing a special weather statement for extreme southwestern Ontario, warning of the snow and blowing snow conditions for tomorrow. We've also got fog advisories in place for areas northwest of here, and we remain under that original special weather statement. At this point, we're anticipating maybe another 5 millimeters of rain. It's mild, 6 degrees at this hour, 12 in the Welland area. Again, anticipate that the rest of today is going to be unsettled, but the rain not as heavy as it was this morning. We'll take you through what you need to know when it comes to potential snow for tomorrow. That's ahead. For now, Michelle, over to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. Well, fraud and scams are now a constant threat.
From cryptocurrency scams to identity theft, Toronto police are releasing information on the most popular scams in the city. CTV's Janice Golding is live with more. Janice.
Hi, Nathan. Yes, March is National Fraud Prevention Month, and Toronto police say they are trying to remind the public to stay vigilant because scammers are becoming an increasing problem and their scams are more and more sophisticated. Now, this is a national campaign, but the Toronto numbers alone are bleak. Last year, Toronto police received almost 17,000 complaints. That's more than 45 a day. They investigated close to $370 million in reported fraud and scam losses. And police estimate only 5 to 10% of frauds are reported because people can feel humiliated. Now, investigators say Torontonians were hardest hit by online investment scams, which account for more than $71 million in losses. Officers say it often starts as a romance scam, where fraudsters reach out via text or email, build a relationship with the victim over time, and once they have a trusting relationship, the scammer will introduce a lucrative investment opportunity and convince victims to urgently transfer funds. Account takeovers, confidence scams, cryptocurrency scams, and identity theft were also highlighted in the top 5 crimes. Investigators say they're trying to promote the 3 R's, namely encouraging people to recognize, reject, and report fraud.
Fraud occurrences have reached unprecedented levels. In 2024, the Toronto Police Service received just under 17,000 fraud reports, with losses exceeding $368 million.
Bottom line, fraud is a huge issue in Canada. Like was just mentioned, in Toronto alone, over $368 million was lost. $638 million was reported lost to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre in 2024. And again, that's estimating that, it's only the tip of the iceberg. We estimate that only 5 to 10% of victims report to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. So our goal is to really spread awareness and, encourage reporting.
This year, the Bureau's theme is spotting the new face of fraud, and it will highlight impersonation scams, including fake websites, AI-generated fraud, and deceptive telemarketing scams.
Now, of note, seniors seem to be the most vulnerable, officers saying that they lose the most money, about 33% more than the average victim. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Michelle and Nathan.
Thank you, Janice. From scams to housing, Toronto continues to struggle with a housing crisis made worse by a lack of affordable rentals.
Mayor Olivia Chow spoke with tenants today that are part of a program providing support to renters. CTV's Mike Walker joins us live now with more on the situation. Mike.
Well, the social housing wait list in the city continues to grow. Over 100,000 people, according to the latest stats from the city. And this morning, the mayor was touting a first-of-its-kind program in the city that's been in place for a few years now that Olivia Chow says is essential to tackling the affordable housing crisis. Now, the mayor was speaking with tenants on an apartment building in the Bathurst and St. Clair area who have benefited from the city's multi-unit rental acquisition program. The program was launched in 2021 and provides grant funding to nonprofit housing providers and community groups to help purchase rental homes and make them into affordable housing. Since the city rolled out this program, it has provided $165 million in funding for 34 projects, providing more than 1,000 affordable rental units. Here's more from the mayor.
The acquisition fund program is unique in a way, is immediate. It's now that you can take people from homelessness or feeling insecure and have their home made affordable forever.
If we're not stepping in, then often when these buildings turn over, other owners are going to try to move folks out, put in some marble, and jack the rents way up. So, rent eviction process can occur. So we interrupt that, and this is a great program for doing that.
Last year, the city provided $102 million in grants to more than a dozen community housing providers. That, the city says, will result in more than 700 affordable rental units. Speaking with reporters this morning, the mayor noted what's integral to the success of this program and moving it forward is also investments from all levels of government and the private sector as well. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Nathan, back to you.
All right, thanks, Mike. Meanwhile, February was another slow month for home sales across the GTA. The Toronto Regional Real Estate Board says just over 4,000 properties exchanged hands in February, marking a 27% drop compared to the year before and a slight drop from January. At the same time, new listings ticked up 5.4% year over year. Experts say current mortgage rates are still high enough to keep prospective buyers on the sidelines, and many may have pressed pause on their home purchase plans.
As we get towards the end of the spring, we're going to see a more affordable situation just in terms of borrowing costs. But then number two, there's been a lot more economic uncertainty, obviously, over the last couple of months. I mean, today we're talking about tariffs actually imposed, but we're also talking about the potential for a deal. And so people don't really know what's going on. And if you're thinking about having to make a large ticket purchase and be able to cover those mortgage payments over the long term, you want to have some certainty in terms of your labor situation, your income situation, what have you.
The average home sale price also ticked down slightly compared to last year to $1.08 million.
A York Region community is divided over a housing project meant to support vulnerable men.
A group of councillors and residents are fighting to get the facility built, but the town's mayor is using his strong mayor powers to stop those plans. CTV's Beth McDonnell has the details.
The Yonge Street property in question is near downtown Aurora. For years, there's been talk about building a men's emergency and transitional housing facility here to help York Region's growing population experiencing homelessness.
Using strong mayor powers, which 50 municipalities got, with the idea of speeding up the development of affordable housing, that just flies in the face of this. This has actually stopped deeply affordable housing.
This location was determined to be unsuitable 2 years ago, remained unsuitable a year ago, and continues to be unsuitable.
After Town Council voted 4-3 in favor of a motion last week for the region to consider the site, Aurora's mayor used his strong mayor powers to veto it, writing, "Use of the land could compromise its strategic purpose and may interfere with the delivery of infrastructure to support housing."
It was shocking in the sense that it's an affront to our democracy.
Councillor John Gallo put forward the motion after changing his mind about the project.
What's at stake ultimately is there are men that are going to be sleeping on the streets 1 year longer than they should.
Despite the mayor using his strong mayor powers, the fight for this project is not over, and there is still hope to reverse the veto.
We can have a special meeting of council, and we're planning on doing that because we think the public needs to know all the reasons why a veto was offered.
And residents speaking out about the plan are divided too.
We've had enough. It's gone through a democratic process and it failed.
A veto to stop a discussion. To me, that's extraordinarily wrong.
Supporters say the location is central in York Region. The project is shovel-ready, and the 68 beds it will create are desperately needed. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Returning now to our coverage of the U.S. tariffs on Canadian goods and energy. Sources tell CTV News Prime Minister Trudeau will be speaking with U.S. President Donald Trump today. It'll be their first conversation since the duties went into effect yesterday. Ottawa immediately introduced 25% retaliatory tariffs on $30 billion worth of U.S. products and will expand them to cover another $125 billion worth of American goods in 21 days. Meanwhile, Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly is scheduled to speak with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio today.
And tariffs were in the spotlight during U.S. President Donald Trump's address to Congress last night. President Trump saying the duties will make Americans rich. CTV's Scott Hurst joins us now. And Scott, there's a lot to unpack from last night's congressional address. It was lengthy and it made it very apparent the divide in America is deep. We here in Canada, however, were listening so closely for any words about Canada. Tell us what was said.
Michelle, we really saw an emboldened Trump, a Trump that obviously knows Republicans control the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. And you mentioned the length of it at just shy of an hour 40. It was the longest address to a joint session of Congress in presidential history. And Trump doubling down on his divisive agenda in terms of tariffs that Canadians are keenly interested in. Trump praised them once again, as we've heard him say this many times before, saying the trade policy will make America rich again, as many experts and industry leaders fear it could send prices soaring for consumers in Canada and the U.S. as well. Here's more from Donald Trump during the speech to the joint session of Congress on how much money he expects tariffs to bring in to the U.S.
We will take in trillions and trillions of dollars and create jobs like we have never seen before. I did it with China and I did it with others, and the Biden administration couldn't do anything about it because there was so much money they couldn't do anything about it. We have been ripped off for decades by nearly every country on earth, and we will not let that happen any longer.
Now, Trump there not just talking about the tariffs against Canada and Mexico, but also the reciprocal tariffs against many other countries that could come into effect in early April. Now, Trump also admitting while praising tariffs, did say that it could cause some pain, but quickly glossed over that fact just by saying it'll cause a little disturbance, he said, and won't be much, Michelle.
Now, there's still so much uncertainty about these tariffs. We heard again from his Commerce Secretary. Talk to us about the conflicting messaging around these tariffs.
So, Michelle, last night, if you're watching the joint speech to Congress, you're hearing U.S. President Donald Trump praise tariffs, saying it'll make America rich and bring in, as you heard him say right there, trillions of dollars. But then just this morning, his Commerce Secretary saying it appears they might be ready to strike some sort of deal with Canada. We do know that there is a phone call scheduled between the U.S. President and the Canadian Prime Minister today. What exactly a deal might mean, as Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said, a chance to meet in the middle, that is still unclear. As we did hear from the Prime Minister yesterday, he had not spoken directly to the U.S. President in the lead-up to the tariffs being imposed on our country, Michelle.
CTV Scott Hurst, live for us in the CTV National Newsroom. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
In Vaughan, tariffs were the focus of a visit to an auto parts manufacturer today by one of the candidates seeking to become Canada's next prime minister.
We need to be absolutely clear that this is illegal and unjustified. We need to be absolutely clear that this is economic warfare. We need to be absolutely clear that our sovereignty is not up for negotiation. We need to be clear, we need to be speaking directly to Americans and make clear to them how dumb this tariff war is.
Chrystia Freeland says Canadian retaliation needs to be tailored to cause the maximum financial pain and pressure in the United States. The Liberal Party chooses its new leader on Sunday.
Meanwhile, Mexico's government may be contacting Canadian officials about the tariffs that have been imposed on both our countries. Mexico's president said today if the duties continue, she will reach out to Canada and other nations. And if necessary, her country will look for other trading partners. Claudia Sheinbaum calls the imposition of tariffs, quote, a very definitive moment for Mexico. She is tentatively set to have a phone call with Donald Trump tomorrow.
In Rome, Pope Francis was taken off mechanical ventilation today. The pontiff had been using it through the night in hospital to help with his breathing. The Vatican says he has since returned to receiving a high flow of oxygen via a small nasal hose. Officials added the Pope rested well during the night. His prognosis is still guarded, meaning he's not yet out of danger. He's being treated for double pneumonia.
Well, it is rain today. It could be snow tomorrow and maybe a little bit of mixing in between. Let's talk about your evening at a glance, though. Temperature around 6 degrees in the city of Toronto. Expected to be showery or drizzly, foggy too. There's also a risk of a late afternoon thunderstorm. Now, tomorrow, our warmest temperature of the day is going to happen in the morning. And then we're going to go from 1 degree to below freezing in the afternoon. Couple that with some very strong winds and some flurries. We could have some snowfall accumulation too. We're going to talk all about it in your weather forecast after this break here on CTV News at noon.
Well, the weather story today, super soaker. I mean, definitely so much melting out there and puddles, and it wasn't fun, at least for my gang this morning.
Yeah, not the prettiest looking day, but kids do like walking through the puddles.
That's
they kind of enjoy this rain, not us.
Yeah, my son was pretty excited to get his umbrella out for the first time in months. It was a bit of a nuisance on the way to daycare, but that's okay. It's all in good fun. We got to make the most of it. We've been keeping an eye on this live shot outside too. We're essentially in the clouds today. Lots of mist, lots of fog at this hour, and we are watching for the potential for a thunderstorm as we make our way through this afternoon and early evening. Don't be too surprised if you hear a rumble of thunder or see a flash of lightning. It'll be unsettled today, and then winter returns tomorrow. Weather is brought to you by the Pressler Law Firm Injury Lawyers. You don't pay unless they win. Of course, one of the downsides to all this rain, we've been talking about it, the falling rain combined with the melting snow has led to a little bit of ponding on roads and even localized flooding in some areas too. It's not so much, again, the amount of the rainfall, it's the combination of the two. And we're also very closely watching rivers and streams because of the extra runoff, ice jams that could be happening in some areas. So just a reminder, the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority has a flood outlook in place for areas around the Greater Toronto area. Keep family and pets away from the edges of the water for rivers and streams, not only today, but really the next couple of days. They're expected to be running high and fast. Big picture look at this big low pressure system. It's bringing snow to parts of northern Ontario. It's bringing potentially severe thunderstorms stateside today with the potential even for tornadic activity. For us, we have been getting rain. Now we're getting some showers, and it looks like this pattern is going to continue on and off through the day. Fog advisory for areas to the northwest of Toronto. We are still under that original special weather statement, but a new one has been issued for extreme southwestern Ontario, warning of tomorrow, technically around midnight tonight. The temperature is going to fall. There could be some flash freezing, and then tomorrow we are talking blowing and drifting as well as falling snow. Rainfall, maybe another 5 millimeters today for us locally. If we get a thunderstorm, which the forecast radar does show potential, we could see higher rainfall amounts than that. But look what happens overnight and into tomorrow morning. Temperature is going to cool down. As mentioned, those winds pick up and precip changes from rain to some snow, and we could be dealing with flurries right into the day on Friday and Saturday as well. It's not a lot for us here locally. It's just enough, though, maybe 1 to 2 centimeters of wet snow accumulating, and those winds are going to blow it around and make for some complicated driving conditions at times. Gusts at around 60 kilometers per hour expected for tomorrow and eventually out of the northwest. It is mild around southern Ontario and across parts of the United States. Tonight, we remain at about 2 degrees, so that's warmer than normal. But then tomorrow, our daytime high is reached in the morning. Could be mild enough for maybe a little bit of mixing early in the day, but by the afternoon, we're going to be at around -2 degrees here locally in Toronto. Overnight low about -5. Overnight conditions are going to clear, and we will enjoy some sunshine for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It is, however, going to be a little cooler out there. That's the weather for now. Nathan, going to send things over to you.
All right, thanks, Lindsay. The Toronto Zoo is set to open a new exhibit called Walk on the Wild Side. Visitors will get the chance to get up close with lifelike replicas of some of the most amazing animals on Earth. CTV's Jess Smith is at the zoo for a sneak peek. Hey, Jess.
Hey, Nathan, lions, tigers, and bears are all around us here at the Toronto Zoo. And although we are still kind of dealing with some messy weather, that's not stopping us from checking out this brand new exhibit. Now, Dolph, with the zoo, talk to me about where we're standing right now. And there are some wild animals of sorts behind us.
Yeah, we're in the Africa savanna. At this time of year, usually it's pretty quiet. It's cold out. A lot of the savanna animals are indoors. So we brought in some animatronic animals to help liven up this March break for all our guests.
Now, they are roaring at us. They are moving. Why was it important to have them kind of interactive for people when they do come through as it opens up?
You know, we often like to add some new components just to make sure people can make the most of their day. So we found some African species to be out here on the savannah, and we think kids are going to love it. They're going to be able to get up close, get some pictures, and really have something new for their trip to their zoo.
And how important is it to you guys to have people coming year-round? Because it was news to me. I learned something brand new today, that you guys are also open when the weather is not maybe as stellar, but you want people to come through regardless. Rain, shine, snow, sleet, doesn't matter.
Yeah, we are open 365 days a year, even Christmas. And I always say, no bad weather, just bad clothing. So come on out. This will be a great addition to warming up in the pavilions, hanging out with the gorillas and the orangutans, then heading out to check out these lions, rhinos. It's going to be an amazing ad.
And they do make sound. So was that part of the experience as well? Because when you're walking through, it'll be nice and quiet for a second, and all of a sudden there's a giraffe that talks to you. We got lions making noises. How important was it to have that be part of this interaction?
Yeah, we really like that added dimension. We think it's going to be delightful for kids when they actually get surprised when these lions pop to life. And it's something you wouldn't normally see. Lions are often during the day when it's warmer. They're maybe sleeping in the cave. You wouldn't get that. So a whole new layer to their zoo day.
So when it comes to accessibility, is it an option for everybody to be able to come through regardless of what your abilities are?
Yeah, one of our real commitments over the past few years, becoming a zoo for all. The regulations have changed, thank goodness, and now you'll see new boardwalks, new spaces. Our real commitment to making sure snow clearing where it needs to be, wherever you come from, locally, wherever walk of life you're from, this is a place for you.
Now, as we get ready to open this up, as we head in towards March break, a really busy time, what are you guys anticipating when it comes to numbers? Because I feel like weather not as terrible. Lindsay obviously broke it down for us, but what are you expecting as we welcome people in?
Well, what I'm certainly hoping for is that you're going to be out here with your community, that we see 8,000 to 10,000 people a day. And it's been a long, cold winter. I think people are going to be excited to get outside, to get some steps in, to recharge, hopefully see some leaves blooming in the next budding in the next few weeks. It's going to be amazing.
You know what? We've walked through, there have been gorillas, there have been snakes, we saw some warthogs. Is giving a little bit of a Lion King kind of vibe in there. Do you have a favorite animal?
Well, I'm not supposed to, but I have two. Juno, the polar bear, and Loki, the black-throated laughing thrush, are high on my list.
Listen, I'm really a fan of the lions behind us. Thank you so much, Dolph. Again, opens up for the public on Friday. We're getting a little bit of a preview here. We're walking on the wild side, Michelle. Don't worry, it's safe, I promise. But I'm going to send things back in studio to you. I'm going to go say hi to the lions.
Honestly, initially I thought, watch your back. Oh, they're not real. See ya. Folks, we have some breaking news about those U.S. tariffs on Canada. Bloomberg is reporting the Trump administration is considering a one-month delay for tariffs against automakers. It's getting that information from people familiar with the matter. We know that Trudeau and Trump have a call today, but this is definitely interesting to think that there could be a one-month delay for tariffs against automakers. We'll continue to follow this developing story.
Coming up, bringing smiles to children receiving care in hospital. We take a look at clown therapy being used at Holland Bloorview Kids Rehab after the break. They say laughter is the best medicine.
And a therapy program at Holland Bloorview Kids Rehab takes that to heart. CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan explains.
Therapy clowns Nurse Flutter and caretaker Piccolo swoop in to greet the D'Amico family, especially 4-year-old Zach, who is a major hockey and dinosaur fan.
Oh, you look like you shed some weight on your tail.
Oh my gosh! Zach first arrived in October after falling ill Labor Day weekend, just before he was to begin JK.
And he started complaining about some neck pain. And when I asked the walk-in about that, and they said, you know, he could have slept on it wrong.
It was an enterovirus, which ordinarily would cause just a flu-like illness, but in Zach, it began attacking his spine, causing acute flaccid myelitis. At Holland Bloorview, he gets physiotherapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and music therapy.
But by far, his most favorite therapy is clown therapy. They have a way of interacting with him and communicating with him that helps to bring out his playful side that we thought we lost.
He learned the farting noise from one of the many great nurses here. So it's and that is his way of interacting and playing with the clowns, and they take that and they run with it.
This is caretaker Piccolo, Nurse Flutter, Zachary, and Austin. And we just want to say...
Nurse Flutter and caretaker Piccolo are why the D'Amicos are such great supporters of Capes for Kids. Clown therapy is exclusively funded through dollars raised by the campaign, which wraps up on March 7th.
The D'Amicos have a couple of milestone dates coming up, including Zach's birthday in less than 2 weeks and a projected discharge date of April 3rd, but there are many things that give them hope for the future.
He's got some limited movement back to his body. And we know that with this diagnosis, time is on our side, that things can return 6 months from now, 2 years from now.
Zach's young age and feisty attitude give him a definite advantage. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
The union representing around 30,000 City of Toronto workers has set the deadline for a potential strike. CUPE Local 79 represents unionized inside workers. They'll be in a legal strike position as of Saturday, but the union's president says that they won't take that step until 12:01 on Monday. If an agreement isn't reached with the city by then, 39 city-run daycares and all city-run March break camps will be shut down, along with other key municipal services. The union says the latest contract offer falls short on their wage demands.
We are here today because the City of Toronto's bargaining team has not taken negotiations seriously. Instead, they are playing games with the livelihoods of 30,000 frontline workers and the vital services that the residents of Toronto rely on.
Mayor Olivia Chow said she hopes the deal will be reached. City Manager Paul Johnson is set to provide his own bargaining update this afternoon.
And while these programs could be impacted in the event of a strike, online registration for the city's spring recreation programs is now open to residents of North York and Scarborough. There are nearly 134,000 spaces available and more than 15,000 programs, including arts, fitness, wellness, and sports. People in the rest of the city were able to sign up yesterday.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Well, if you're hoping to file your taxes sooner rather than later, you may run into some trouble this year. The Canada Revenue Agency has technically been accepting online tax returns since February 24th, but some filers have found they can't click the submit button. Officials say this issue stems from changes to the capital gains tax that were set to take effect only to then be deferred until 2026 by the Department of Finance. The Canada Revenue Agency says its teams are still rejigging forms to reflect the necessary changes with a target date of mid-March for a fix to be in place. And the owners are looking to clear the air over a promotion that includes free rush hour trips through the month of March. The private operators say there's been a lot of interest, but drivers are only eligible if they received a targeted offer and enrolled by February 28th. 407 ETR says over 1 million customers received one of those offers. By the way, the future of the tolled highway and its role in managing traffic in the GTA, you might remember, was also in the spotlight during the provincial election campaign.
A new report suggests Elon Musk's interventions in Germany's recent election are impacting Tesla sales in that country. Bloomberg cites official figures from the German government showing vehicle registrations of Teslas in the country plunged 76% in February. That's in comparison to an overall 31% surge in electric vehicle registrations there. Tesla's owner, Elon Musk, endorsed a far-right party in the lead-up to a vote in Germany and became a prominent figure in a closely watched campaign. At the same time, Tesla registrations were up 11% for the first 2 months of the year.
2024 was one of the highest grossing years for concert tours, and this year, record ticket prices are expected to continue.
If you've bought a concert ticket recently, you know how expensive they can be, and there's a reason why that's happening. CTV's Pat Foran has this consumer alert.
I would definitely say it feels like fans are being taken advantage of.
Nicolina Moscati of Toronto is a big fan of The Weeknd and wanted tickets to see his concert on July 27th.
I love that he is from Toronto.
She was part of a fan pre-sale but was shocked when the cheapest 2 tickets she could find were $852 for the 500 level at the Rogers Centre.
It seemed very much like the concert was selling very quickly, and that if we wanted to go, we would need to just pay the money.
After Moscati bought the tickets, the weekend added 2 more shows, and that's when she saw the same seats selling for $500 less.
The price I paid doesn't seem right, that they can just decide these prices on a whim and change them based on demand.
Baseball teams do it, football teams do it, airlines do it on a daily basis.
Music industry expert Eric Alper says while more artists are using dynamic or surge pricing, not all of them do. He says it's up to the performer and says the strategy makes more profit for the artists and promoters and helps cut out ticket resellers.
Based on the popularity of the artist, based on the amount of people who are going after those same tickets, the prices are going to rise and fall based on the demand.
Ticketmaster said tickets for the weekend's tour were priced in advance and did not change during the sale. It does say on their website, we have also helped teams and artists dynamically price tickets to ensure they rightfully receive the benefits of market pricing instead of their profits going to scalpers or resale ticketing sites. In Moscati's case, the tour decided to refund her the $852, allowing her to buy cheaper tickets for one of the added shows.
Thank you, CTV News. I wouldn't be in this situation without you, and thanks to your help, I'm going to be able to get great seats at hopefully a much better price and just enjoy my time at the concert.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
There's some big news out of the musical theater world today as Disney sets the stage for a new adaptation. The Greatest Showman was a 2017 movie starring Hugh Jackman, Zac Efron, Zendaya, and several other stars. And it tells the story of circus master P.T. Barnum. Disney announced today it's working on a stage version of this screen hit. It'll be presented in Bristol in the UK next spring before potential transfers to London and New York.
Coming up, a major musical is celebrating a first. Performances of Disney's The Lion King musical are now being led by a female conductor. More on that story after the break. We have more information now about that breaking news on the tariffs we told you about earlier. As we said, the Trump administration is weighing a 1-month delay for duties against automakers. That's according to Bloomberg, citing people familiar with the matter. Reuters is reporting administration officials met with the heads of Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis to discuss the matter yesterday. Sources say automakers have offered to boost U.S. auto investments, but want certainty about tariff and environmental policies. Meanwhile, CTV News has confirmed the phone call between Prime Minister Trudeau and Trump did take place today. A government source says Ottawa's discussions with the Americans continue. Well, after more than 25 years on stage, Disney's The Lion King musical is having a first.
Courtesy of a conductor. CTV's Andrea Case explains.
When I asked pianist Joy Brown to play something simple like Happy Birthday, this is what I got.
I started piano when I was 4, and I was classically trained. I have my associate with the Royal Conservatory in piano performance, and then I went to Humber for jazz.
Now her musical path has led her into the orchestra pit at the Princess of Wales Theatre, first as a pianist, but on February 22nd, Brown made her debut as a conductor for The Lion King, the first black female to lead the orchestra in the show's history. Brown is not only a talented musician, she is also a nurse practitioner.
Can I give a shout out to Black Creek Community Health Center?
Yes, you can give a shout out. Hi, guys. There was a time when Brown never thought she could be a professional pianist.
I wanted to be a classical pianist and tour, and I remember being told, well, you're not Chinese and you're not Eastern European, so no, you'll never make it.
But she would not be denied. She's also a producer and arranger. She studied conducting, and today the assistant conductor for The Lion King. As for her debut with the baton, she was given a couple of weeks' notice, and her family took in the show. By the time the intermission came, there was a party backstage.
Intermission was a whole bunch of noise and Joy song happening and cake. So it was cake? cake at intermission. It was madness. It was absolute madness. It was madness.
Is there usually cake at intermission?
No, this was like a big deal. This was a big deal. And when they announced, and Joy's going to be doing her debut, Sean gets on, he goes, and this is like a huge thing because she'll be like the first Black female. And there was like screams all throughout. We got to the very last finale now, and I was just like, all of a sudden, I just took the... And then I was getting ready to cry. I'm like, hold it together, girl, because you still have to finish. We still have to do the bows.
In the entertainment world, when somebody gets a big break and it all works out, they say a star is born. Well, you can say that about Joy Brown. So much so, she's been back in the pit since her first time, and she'll be conducting again twice more this week. Andrea Case, CTV News.
All right, back to the forecast, and it's all about the rain today.
It is, yeah. It's showery out there right now. It's a bit foggy. Also, we've got mist. We've got the risk of a thunderstorm a little later on this afternoon. I want to show you the satellite and radar image one more time because we've got another little round of moisture now making its way into the GTA. So keep those umbrellas handy, especially through the early part of this afternoon. Special weather statements are being issued for southwestern Ontario ahead of tonight's cool down and tomorrow's return to winter. Here in Toronto, we could be waking up to a little bit of a wintry mix or some flurries. Either way, you can expect tomorrow to be blustery, feeling a lot more like winter again. Afternoon temperature is going to be around -2 degrees. And then the weekend is a bit cool as well with some flurries in the forecast for Saturday, along with some sun. So we'll take that. Nathan and Michelle.
All right, thanks, Lindsay. And that's CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great afternoon.